He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Bat Minute of the Phantasm. This is the podcast where we shine a light on every moment of Batman Mask of the Phantasm, 1 minute at a time. I don't know, I balls up the word at there. I'm one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And here to open fire on your ear holes 3 days a week, it's your other host, John Parker. Hello.
Yes, we purposely, you're worried about your pop filter not working on the mic, John, but it actually helps you in sounding more like a rat-a-tat machine gun at every given moment.
That's what it is. That's what I'm going for. That's what I've been going for the whole time. It's not bad audio.
But anyway, we're joined once again by one of our stalwart guests, someone who's been on every season and multiple bonus episodes and everything. It's one Stephanie Palacino.
Hello.
Yay, welcome back.
Hi.
Always a pleasure, Stephanie.
It sure is. A pleasure for you to listen to me.
It is, absolutely. You're joking, but it's true.
But anyway, we're here to specifically talk about minute 46 of Mask of the Phantasm today, which opens with a cavalcade of cops, and it ends a minute later with a literal bat bomb. Asking people up front, Stephanie, and I think actually because I know you've said in the past, you've kind of alluded to your history with the show of BTAS.
Oh yeah, BTAS, is that what we call it?
Yeah,
no, it's official.
But like, what's your history with Mask of the Phantasm? Like, do you remember the first time you saw it?
Oh yes, I do. I remember it was okay. So everybody knows that this movie came out around the time the Michael Schumacher. That's not a Michael Schumacher. I'm thinking of the other one, Joel Schumacher.
Michael Schumacher won the Formula One Grand Prix.
Oh, the guy with horrible tea accent and poor guy. No, I'm thinking of Joel. No, sorry.
I love the way my brain is just so destroyed these days that I didn't even pick up on the error. I was like, yeah, Michael Schumacher, yeah.
I was an actual child. I think I might have been. I mean, I wasn't in the demographic because back then they didn't know that girls actually enjoyed this show. Like, everybody was like, this is for little boys and little boys only, and we don't want any of your girliness getting on it. You know?
The most violent a girl's cartoon could be is, well, you can watch She-Ra. That's good enough.
Yeah, exactly. Even though this has some, like, epic female characters in it. I'm not like, I don't think that they ever, like, really realize, I don't know if they did it on purpose, but it was like, as a little girl watching this, you know, seeing spoilers, the female villain, I was like, you know, I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Like, this is a great interesting way of like building up, you know, female characters that aren't like, you know, just there to be eye candy and get rescued. I was like, well, yes, exactly. I mean, there's always gonna be a little bit of fawning over Bruce, but anyways, it still is like a great, just an epic movie. Like, so yeah, what can I say about it besides that? Like, I was, I don't know, like 7, 9, somewhere around there. I gotta look back on when this movie came out, but. That's how I saw it, on a VHS tape at a friend's house. Well, my mom and her friend were probably downstairs secretly smoking pot, but like they didn't want to tell us that. I was like, "Here, kids, you hang out here in this room. Have fun. We'll put on the videotapes. You know,
we'll be back in 2 or 3 hours."
Okay. Scream if anything bad happens.
Here's an extra tape just in case we're not back in 2 or 3 hours.
No, it wasn't that bad, but yeah.
Speaking of Joel Schumacher, though, because we did for a long time, but we haven't in a minute. I've been recently listening to a great podcast series called Download, The History of Ain't It Cool News, which is, you know, it's obviously about the downfall of Ain't It Cool News and Harry Knowles, the infamous, you know, big ginger guy in a wheelchair who ran it, and then he's kind of become a complete, pariah now because he's a sleazebag, basically. And
That never happens anymore.
But it was weird because we talked a little bit about Ain't It Cool News last year because they were kind of one of the catalysts for the downfall of Batman and Robin. That was one of the first big movies that got trashed on the internet, and that's how the word of mouth spread that it was bad. And it was weird because they started talking about it specifically. The first guy to send an early review was a guy who went by the name of Joe Hallenbeck, which is I think that's Bruce Willis's character in The Last Boy Scout, but so it's not the guy's real name or anything. But he infamously, he claims in his review, as soon as it ended, he stood up and shouted "Death to Joel Schumacher," and everyone started applauding and all this kind of stuff. And nowadays, it's just you had a whole ravenous, room brimming with white men calling for the death of this really nice gay man and stuff. That's not good optics of that at all. For what, he made a movie you didn't like? But I didn't realize though, because they were talking about Joe Hallenbeck, and he always had. Apparently, then Joe Hallenbeck did this and had a bit of internet infamy because he was the guy who shouted "Death to Joel Schumacher" and kind of led the way in tearing down Batman and Robin. Ugh. And I found out apparently he went to prison.
Oh my goodness! Really? How did he do that?
He should have been sent to prison for insulting those movies. They're great.
They got sent down for mass piracy. He was a guy the reason a lot of the time that Harry Knowles had all these scoops was because the studio would try to get in good with him. So Harry, come out and we'll show you you can go to the Starship Troopers premiere. And he's like, oh great. And then it turns out he's seen the movie already because Joe Hallenbeck had given him a VHS of it.
Oh, so it wasn't just piracy, he was pirating it for himself. He was passing it on.
Distributing stuff, films that hadn't even come out yet. He was just him and the guy just and he's interviewed on it as well. He's very open now about being I was a stupid kid. I was doing this and he was only 20 or something at the time. But I just thought it was crazy to and an update to when the site that took down Batman and Robin. One of the guys who was leading the charge ended up going to friggin' jail. So,
to be fair, even as a child that went to go watch those movies, I kind of thought they were ridiculously campy. I mean, listen, of course, I've grown to love them in my own way. But because I was on the 90s series before I ever saw these movies, it's funny because to me, I saw them and I'm like, why are these so silly compared to, what I like, which is this, the 90s Batman, the animated series, the one we all will praise a million times because we must.
I've been saying so much for this movie in particular, but it's just sometimes you have to stop and go oh man, this is great. It's so well done because I just love everything about this is the way the music goes, the SWAT team band pulling up and then just has this kind of dun, dun, and then going up to the building and then cutting straight into Batman hiding behind a thing. And machine gun fire just coming at him. And just hearing this real... it's getting really dramatic really, really quickly.
I love how they're not even... they're like I said, my appreciation for the scene is ooh, he could totally die right now via bullets. I'm it's not sometimes I remember once watching... And I love the 90s show, but there was one episode where somebody with a machine gun, takes the machine gun and Batman's on the ice. And rather than shoot Batman... they shoot the ice underneath him. I'm well, there is an easier way to deal with this problem.
That's what they always did in cartoons then. If there's a villain, the hero won't shoot the villain. They'll shoot something above them that falls on them. It's now he's knocked out.
Yeah, well, I understand why the hero would do that because, you were trying to not, minimize death, even though I've always been under the assumption that Bruce has done worse by not killing the Joker. That's always been my thing. Yeah. You should have killed him, obviously.
Well, think about all the deaths he could have prevented.
Exactly. I was sometimes I think it's just his own ego at this point. But I really, I'm actually a fan of what's his name, Bullock, right? That's
Harvey Bullock, yeah. One of his big scene in the movie. This now he finally gets to do what he's wanted to do since the show started.
I know, but I do kind of I always liked his character a lot. I think he's a cool because let's be honest, you love Gordon, but you can see Bullock's point, right? I'm okay,
totally.
I would also be kind of annoyed with this whole situation. Well, specifically in the movie, but I'm
I do wonder about as the minutes go on. I'm curious about what we're supposed to take away about what Bullock actually wants here, because Oh, we'll get to it when we get to it. Cause, like,
That's the next
yeah. But I just want to make a note too, because even this is a SWAT team pulling up.
Yeah,
it's just like the it's one of the, because it should be noted as well, because I've been going through the show again, like the whole thing, just to see like if there's anything worth noting. One thing I did notice, like this SWAT team is introduced in the show before Batman even is. Like they're one of the first things you see is this SWAT team.
Wait, and do they look like this?
Because they look like this, yeah.
This was my question.
Okay,
right?
But they do that thing that I never thought that people do, which is the hop, 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 and I'm like, real SWAT teams don't do that. So you know that, right?
It just real seems like that's a cliche thing that was like, does people ever really do that though?
No, they would not. You have to keep as quiet. In fact, it's quite the opposite. If you're about to get hit by SWAT, they are f***ing silent. You're supposed to have not expect them to just come crashing through the windows and stuff. That's kind of how it's supposed to be.
I remember that was a thing with I remember there was a YouTuber. It was a guy I couldn't stand, but I remember hearing that he was an online commentator or something, but he got swatted. I was like, what does that mean? They're like, they called someone he got doxxed. Somebody got his address, and then they said he was in there threatening his family with a shotgun or something, and he went to answer the door. And then it was on a live stream where you just hear him going oh, wait a minute, I'll go get this. And then all of a sudden him going, oh Christ, and just freaking out because the whole freaking SWAT team just descended into his house. I was like, I didn't know you could do that. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you shouldn't, because it's mad illegal, because people have died.
Oh, totally, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. And people doing that on the internet are probably like, I'm kind of hoping that maybe somebody gets killed as well. Because you do that, you're an asshole already.
Well, this is what blew my mind a bit, though, right? Is it just me being a naive English person? Because, our police aren't particularly
aggressive,
armed, let's say. But I get these aren't normal. They're not just normal cops or even riot cops. They're full-on SWAT team, right? But even then, I still thought, right, they look a bit over the top. They look like a futuristic paramilitary force.
Oh, no, that's... Okay, here's the really funny part to that. And by funny, I mean horrifying. Okay, so story goes, at the point where this movie came out, I'm not so sure that they would have been as armed as they were. Now, I could be wrong, but I do know that post 9/11, the military gets a giant flood of money because George W. Bush wants to go to, invade Iraq and Afghanistan for you younger kids out there. Look how well it came. Look at Afghanistan. What a success.
Oh yeah, it was wonderful, wasn't it? Yeah, great outcome.
I love those. When we left, I was like, I totally had a moment. I was like, we could have paid for everyone's health care in America and probably send everybody to college for free.
Yeah, probably could have paid for all of the Afghanistan, people to go to college.
Yeah, I was like, this is real. Anyway, to my point, when that happened, the military, having gotten a big flood of stuff, they also decided, because they wanted to stop terrorism, we should also arm our police forces with military-grade equipment.
Oh.
So all that excess military equipment that, was now getting replaced by better, because it's America and we spend all our money on the military, was given to local police stations.
Oh.
But, big problem, without training. Or without proper training, because the military gets far more training. Yes, of course, you have to go to boot camp and stuff. You don't go to boot camp, for this. So we have military grade weaponry and, shields, everything. Now at a local police level, without the same, I guess, one of the big things is the ethics training that the military goes through, that the police is kind of horribly missing. So that's kind of why there's been cases of I could go on and on. This whole podcast would be what's wrong with the police in America right now.
That's the thing. You think the police force of all people, the police force more than the military, need ethics training and think that they're supposed to deal with people.
Yeah. You're on the ground dealing with people every day. Yeah. That's your whole job.
But it's sometimes just easier to shoot someone. I don't know. Honestly, it's there is so... Oh, I can't even... Like I said, this will be entirely that. And I'm not saying I have to give the caveat that I have met many great cops. And I think still the majority of police officers really do care and want to help people. And I'm saying that as someone, caveat, with lighter skin that passes for white, even though I'm Hispanic. If anything, I feel like this is this is a very accurate scene of how this would go down. In fact, the fact that Bullock is telling them, what are you doing? But is more.
It ties it all together then. You're not going off topic. It's perfect because my question was, this seems a bit, over the top, doesn't it? No, it's the answer.
I think it's because they've been dealing with Bullock in particular knows Batman. And there's just like, if you want to get him, you have to pull out all the stops. Because I know this, I've seen this, I've been there when this guy's escaped, the Joker throwing him into a shark tank and stuff. Like, he's not going to be an easy arrest. So there's like, you literally have to just keep firing all the time, never stop. It's just absolutely relentless. But at the same time, I'm not entirely too sure that Bullock actually wants to kill him, because there's things as the minutes go on, like particularly I might as well jump ahead to near the end of this minute, because like there's a guy, one of the SWAT guys at one point just goes like, oh, there he is, open fire, and just starts spraying.
Yeah,
and Bullock kind of comes over and goes like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah, and when he hits the gas canister or whatever it is, and it blows up the whole floor. And Bullock has the proper like, yeah, jerk, like, what you put up? I
thought that it was because he caused an explosion, and here's another post 9/11 thing that we learn later. That's why it's like weird to analyze this in a post 9/11 world, because this is a pre 9/11 pit. And like, did you see there was a Twitter thing where it was like, to everybody, they said there, and I think the Twitter thread said there's a whole generation of people who have no idea the meaning of today. And like, there was like people like, what are you talking about? What is today? And I'm like, it's 9/11. Never forget. You don't, but like, I understand, like, I'm pushing 40 at this point,
within the DC universe, if they ever have any kind of like big dates, are like, oh, well, October 12th was the day the Joker's parade came. When they were spraying Smilex with giant balloons everywhere. So they remember. It's like, oh, it happens so often. We just,
it's every week.
Them like people just like, I'm like, no wonder the economy of Gotham City is in shambles all the time. They have so many poor people. Like, how many people are willing to help the Joker and all this crap? I'm like, well, you know what? Seems like a kind of desperate situation at this point.
But imagine there must be at some points they're like, well, it was 5 years ago today that the Scarecrow flooded the streets with fear gas and everyone went crazy for a bit, and then getting to the point like, well, it was 6 years ago the Dark Side arrived from outer space, and the Justice League had to have a big fight, and it's like, never forget. It was like, they've fought about 10 times since, but whatever.
Because in the Marvel universe, they have a 9/11 comic book with like Spider-Man and stuff. Which honestly feels a little weird. I know that they meant it in a good way, but I'm like, it's kind of like, we can't. I know, like, they were like, yes, we wanted to help people and show the situation because we have a fictional hero, but I'm like, it's a little hard because it's like a real tragedy, I guess.
It got really weird then too when they had when the Eternals came out, and there's like, they've been around for thousands of years or whatever, and then everyone's like, they stop these catastrophic events, and then everyone started going like, well, why didn't they stop 9/11? Why didn't they stop and all this stuff? And it's like, just forget about the Eternals. We're not going to do anything more with those guys.
I'm like, that can't work really anymore, because it's like, obviously, because having, known the full impact of that, and it's, like I said, it's weird to have this whole episode, but talk about 9/11, but like, because it deals so much with the police and why everything is kind of the way, or at least evolved into the way it was. I'm not going to say that cops were nice before 9/11 and stuff, but it's called the militarization, I got that right. Militarization of the police in the United States is a direct result of 9/11. And so when I see a scene like this, yes, the accuracy, I'm like I said, it's funny because if I see it now, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. In fact, the cops can do like some insane. Here's a fun fact, and by fun I mean horrifying. Again, about cops can do basically horrific. Let's say that they think that they're raiding your house, like because there's a drug dealer or somebody in it, and they, they SWAT your house and it like explode your windows, throw tear gas. Like, this was actually a case where they threw tear gas into a crib.
Oh my! What?
Yes. Oh no, it wasn't a tear gas. It was actually worse. What are those? The ones that they set off lights, basically. But they have gunpowder in them, so it like horrifically burned this infant. The family was never paid out because there's like a law on the books that basically says that like the police are not responsible for like the damage they cause during these raids. Like, this was more of a recent case. It's very hard for them to like That's why I kind of feel for Bullock. I'm like, you know what? He's not that bad compared to some of the shit.
Well, I sort of agree. Like, he sometimes seems like he doesn't want to kill Batman. But then he doesn't object to the fact that a helicopter is machine gunning him.
But it could be maybe it's like it's shoot. It's weird though because
no, these are bullets. It seems like to me like the way they put it is like these are not like lasers or like they do show a tear gas, but it's not like they're all just showing rubber bullets and tear gas because you wouldn't get those little sparks. And they use an actual like ticka. Like no, these look like they're shooting things. In fact, we know they are because they shoot the canisters, that and causing the explosion.
The only thing I can think then is, I was going to say maybe the helicopter has orders like shoot to like scare him, but don't hit him.
Yeah.
But it seems to come
really
very
do that.
close. Well, and also, you've got to be a hell of a good aim. I don't think most people can aim a machine gun like that.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
It's a little good that we didn't get a throwback to because we had like our Harvey Bullock stand-in in '89 was of course Eckhart, and he has that bit where they're going into Ace Chemicals and he's like going to the cops like shoot to kill. You know what I mean? Basically, you want to go in and kill this guy is what I want. But like I guess it can't like. It goes into next minute. There's a shot of Bullock where I'm still like, did he want to kill Batman, or is he just like, you have to keep firing to corner him and then maybe maim him, but don't kill him?
Maybe because they do fire that gas.
Yeah. Although again, with Bullock having worked with Batman so often, like I was watching an episode just the other day, A Bullet for Bullock, where he asked Batman to help him because someone's trying to kill. It's great episode. It's like an old-fashioned. Yeah, real old-fashioned, very noirish, like, detective thing. Where it's like a full jazz soundtrack and all saxophone and stuff, because it's mostly about Bullock, so it's just kind of like from his perspective and stuff. But there's a bit where Batman himself's employing tear gas, and you see him take out a gas mask and stuff. So you think he'd be like, well, you can fire tear gas at him. But he's got a mask that'll get him through that, no problem. But although weirdly, he doesn't take it out in this scene. He just goes. The tear gas just seems to have no effect on him for some reason anyway. Like you never see him.
He's coughing a bit.
Yeah, it gets him for a second.
Minor cough.
He's slipping.
He is slipping. But it shouldn't knock you out. If anything, it just makes you feel like crap. Because I know people in the military who one of the training courses that they have to do is you have to go into a room full of tear gas. And I heard that's the worst. They were telling me, like, everybody I've heard says, like, oh, that's the crappiest thing you'll ever do.
You always make, TV makes seems like, someone getting maced. It's like, oh, yeah, it stings your face for a bit, but then you're okay. But then you see her like, no, apparently it's actually like, you'll be in agony for like a full day.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Probably a couple days, I imagine, as someone who owns the mace, just so anyone... Like as a good American, I have all the weapons that I need to defend myself.
You want to spray yourself in the face, Stephanie? Just give us a live reaction to see how bad it is.
I had a friend who got tased to see what it was like. Ooh. Like he was a journalism student, and like he's like, okay, I'm going to see what this is. And he's like, oh my god, what people don't tell you is you usually will almost always pee yourself. It's because hello, it's not fun.
Do they make them walk into this room of tear gas almost like
and take up your mask?
So they know how it feels, so they don't just use it willy-nilly?
No, it's also so that you know how to handle yourself in a situation where you potentially could be getting tear gassed. And and everybody says like, that it's the most, it's like absolutely... what they tell you is like, not only can you not breathe, every liquid in your nostrils and eyes is just flooding out of you, obviously, because your body is trying to like do, it's like, it's not like all down. You're soaked in your own snot and tears. So it's like, somebody said.
And there's me being naive, thinking they were, make them do it so they know how people feel.
I mean, I'm sure that is a part of it, yeah.
I did actually look into because I was like, when did SWAT teams become a thing? Because I wasn't too sure if it's a date back 100 years or is it a date back further than that, or is it more recent or whatever. And I did briefly look into the history of SWAT teams.
Okay.
For one thing, I didn't even know what SWAT meant.
I do because I played the video game called SWAT back in the early 90s.
Okay. Stephanie, do you know what SWAT means? Or I suppose living in America, you might have it drilled into you all the time.
It's I know. I'm just googling. Oh yeah, I know. Special weapons and tactics. So there you go.
Yeah.
I know what they're used for. They're like basically like the riot police. But
I was shocked to find that the reason they were created was in 1964, the Philadelphia Police Department mobilized the first 100-man SWAT team in response to an alarming increase in bank robberies. I was like, oh, wow. It sounds like, was it like Bullet or something? Or like kind of a Dirty Harry scenario going on out there? But like, but when I see in 1964, it's like, oh, it must be because they were going on to take out protesters or like a freaking bunch of, hippies or something. That probably was no excuse for them to make the SWAT team in the first place.
Was it to take out Vietnam protesters or something?
Yeah,
I was about to say, I bet they were just whooping hippies' asses.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that it's just like, no, there was not only was to stop bank robberies, but there was so many bank robberies happening in Philadelphia that they had to have a SWAT team on standby. It's absolutely insane to me. They didn't think you needed to do that. But but so it's 1960. So they're fairly recent, and they seem to be like pretty much it's an American thing. Like you don't really get SWAT teams. You'll get special mobile units and stuff.
Yeah,
like that,
we do
like
have some kind of armed police here, but I don't think I've ever seen them.
I don't know if many SWAT teams do look as dashing, these guys as well. Because I did note, like, well, one, they got that van, which has got the weird DeLorean door.
Yeah.
Which is like, what I'm sure, like, oh, look cool. It's like, I don't see how that's practical in any way. I guess maybe in Gotham, if you're having to click, like, oh, we have villains that are like 12 feet tall. So, if you wanted to arrest them, you had to put them in the back of a police van. It'd be best if, like, the roof could lift up, basically, to get them. But also, these SWAT guys, too, are wearing jodhpurs. For some reason, they got the old-timey horse-riding jodhpur. The things that you see, like, remember, like, the kind of infamous old-school look of a director would be, like, someone with a beret, the big horn thing to shout
and
into.
Those big puffy pants.
Big puffy parachute pants. But, like, I was kind of... Because I think I looked into, like, jodhpurs were... Apparently, they're created by... They're created in India... by like the guy who was like in charge of the province of Jodhpur.
Yeah, the British in India, right?
Yeah. It was one of those things, and then he's like, I don't like the trousers I have to play polo in. So I want you to go and make me a new specialized type of, and it was proper polo where they're going all around on horses and stuff. And so jodhpurs as this thing are supposed to be like, well, it's horse riding gear, like that's what it's for. So I was kind of seeing a SWAT team in jodhpurs. Like, are these guys riding horses around and stuff?
So
there are cops. We do have cops on horses, like. Yeah. Surprisingly, a lot of them. Like, okay, so here's the thing. Like, people ask, like, well, why are there still cops on horses? It's because the horses are tall and you can see above a crowd really well.
I do kind of wonder, though, if there would have been an extended scene, like when Bruce and Andrea get away in the car. If they're like, to the horses! And it's just like a bunch of SWAT guys and horses tearing down the road after them. It's like, oh, no. They're like, no, we don't have the budget for that. There's no way to animate it.
I'm going to speculate why these guys are wearing jodhpurs. And it's really simple. Because... very similar trousers were worn by the Nazis.
They do have that stormtrooper look.
Yeah, and I think it's to give these guys like a kind of a fascistic
Gestapo-ish
vibe to them. Yeah, like they're going after our hero. So that they're in your mind you're thinking they're bad.
Yeah. That's also I think maybe they did wear them in the military, just in general as well. So maybe
they did. It's not just Nazis that wore them.
Yes,
but one of the very American phrase actually in this minute is it's one of the quotes I bring out most of, even though I never use the term over here because it's not an insult outside of America. I don't think is, of course, the guy opens fire just randomly into the building and it hits like a gas canister, blows up, and Bullock's doing a proper like, no, what are you doing? And then as soon as it happens, he just turns to the guy and goes like, yeah, jerk! Which is, I think he does say that in the show, because I thought that would have been like, it implicates something. And they were like, oh, you can't have that in a children's TV show. You can't have it in this movie. It's a little edgier. But no, when you watch the show, he does call people jerks all the time. I was surprised to learn, though, so I was looking into, like, jerks is a thing. You know, Stephanie, because you lived over in England and Japan and stuff.
Yep.
You've been outside of America. It's not a phrase that anyone else really says, but Americans.
Like, we know what it means from TV and movies, but it's not like a common
that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because, like, I was having this conversation with somebody. Spoiler, I went on a date with someone who's Irish.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's going all right so far.
Hey.
But we will next year.
Whereabouts is he from?
Dublin.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. All right, I guess.
Yeah.
Fine.
You know why it's the biggest city in Europe?
What?
Because it keeps doubling and doubling and doubling.
That's such a dad joke. But anyway, yeah, and we were having this conversation about, okay, you're gonna have to censor both of these words because they're both naughty words, but like the dick and cock, and how they kind of mean the same thing, but they have Americans use the word dick and British people use the word cock, and I was like, yeah, it's like if he's just like talking about a guy who just whips it out, like Americans will be like, and then he whipped his dick out, and then if it's like a British person, and then he whipped his cock out, and I'm like, yeah, that is different, isn't it? But it's the same meaning.
Although I was surprised to find out though, because I assumed like most people would be. It was like, oh, so jerk would come from jerk off.
I figured it did.
What I think jerk off was like a different, to me, jerk was like, a jerk off is another like dickhead. Like it's not the same, but it's related.
I just assumed it was an abbreviation of just like it's like calling someone like over here be like calling them like a wanker. Basically.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
If you saw someone call someone a jerk off, like I think it's less. I don't know. It's less strong than wanker. I was like, oh, you.
Looking into the etymology, though, I was surprised to find no, because some people are like, no, it's nothing to do with masturbation. What are you talking? And then you look at the history of it. It's also defined as a tedious and ineffectual person. It comes from the carnival slang, perhaps from Jerkwater Town, where a steam locomotive crew had to take on boiler water from a trough or a creek because there was no water tank, and then this led to like the use of jerk as something meaning to be inferior. So it's from a Jerkwater Town, and then it got abbreviated down by the carnies into being like. Yeah, but some have been like a jerk because they're from a Jerkwater Town and they're from a kind of crappy area. And I was like, I mean, it could. I'm sure that probably is a thing, but it really just seems like people click together. Like, no, it just means,
Well, carnies are a big part of American fabric. No, a lot of people know this, but Broward County, which is right above Miami, it's the county right above Miami. Kind of almost like became Miami too. It was founded by carnies, so like it is famously that. Yep.
Oh, yeah, awesome. I know a lot of carny terms as a geeky wrestling fan because wrestling started in the carnival, so they still use the words. It's for their own secret language, so people don't know what they're talking about.
I can see that being like a thing. It's it's funny how words evolve.
But no, just one thing I just wanted to point out as well is just that again, this is it's a thing I've never seen in real life, but you used to see it a lot more in cartoons as well. So I remember Brave Star had a whole big thing about doing this as well, where Bullock he's got that thing where he's going around with a toothpick in his mouth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because they couldn't do cigarettes anymore.
Yeah, this movie in particular though, there are friggin' cigarettes everywhere. Like,
I know.
Friggin' Sal Valestra had friggin' emphysema because he was smoking all the time. Call him Sally Louisa Valestra, and it's like. I don't know if that's still like a little line they don't want to cross. They're like, no, Bullock's supposed to be a good guy at heart, though. So it's like you can't have him.
He wouldn't
like in the comics,
cigarettes.
he'd be smoking, but like no, you have to. The toothpick will have to do this time. I think we have to stick with that.
That's a funny thing that they start to do. Like I noticed that in The Simpsons, like because I love seasons 1 through 10. And even though I would say The Simpsons was directly aimed at kids, but a lot of kids watch The Simpsons, and I think they kind of knew it, even though it was aimed towards adults. So many characters smoked on that show, of course, and I'm like, do Patty and Selma still smoke? I was thinking about it.
I've not checked in recently to see.
You would see Krusty constantly doing it. He's like, Patty and Selma. And so does Waylon a few times. Waylon Smithers does, but they kind of don't really show. I haven't seen him smoke anymore. I was like, does he still smoke? And I'm curious. I'm like, do the characters still smoke on the show? Because I don't know if they do, and they would have just random characters who would smoke, just here and there. You would see people smoking.
I don't recall seeing him smoke, but Mo looks like a smoker. He looks like he takes a break outside to have a quick cigarette.
He might have in a couple. I might have seen an episode where he does take a smoke outside, but I'm not. Yeah, I was starting to think that.
There's that one they're going through Shelbyville, and it has all the kind of weird Shelbyville clothes. Yeah, Joe's, and he's standing outside smoking a cigarette. So if he's smoking them, then Mo probably is as well. Yeah,
I think Mo. I Well, you know what? I'm gonna Google this. Mo Simpsons.
Well, Mo's got like a vibe of like Anthony Bourdain or something. Yeah, I think his breakfast every day is a coffee and a cigarette.
Oh yeah, and you see, well, they don't have her anymore. Mrs. Krabappel used to smoke like the teachers.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like, I can't find any.
It's actually weird that Homer doesn't smoke, really. Well, I suppose you do see him smoking cigars on occasion, but like Sideshow Bob obviously smoking a cigar.
You'd occasionally see Nelson smoking a cigarette. Oh no, I found one. Yeah, there is a few of he will smoke at least a couple times, but yeah. I'm like, whatever the characters who smoke, do they not smoke anymore?
I guess it was that one too, where like Marge takes up smoking to
hide
the smell of chili and stuff.
The rich taste of tobacco.
And it's like, oh, calm down. Why did you have a cigarette?
Oh man,
I suppose I could.
I was in Germany and I saw a guy in a spa because like the spas, I don't know if anyone knows it, but you're butt ass naked with everybody, men and women. And I saw this guy had the Space Coyote, the Johnny Cash Space Coyote as a tattoo. I was like, Space Coyote! And I told him that.
Weirdly, earlier today, John sent me someone a Space Coyote tattaoo.
Yeah.
And it just said, like, I'm only a tattoo. I have no new information or whatever. I just wanted to mention, though, because, of the Bullock with his toothpick. And I guess it's a thing I've never seen done in real life, but it's a big film thing. I don't know. It could have been a thing that maybe once like the Hays Code kicked in and they were clamping down and smoking and stuff, they started getting detectives who would have been smoking, give them toothpicks so they'd still have like the oral fix. But I think it was even Clint Eastwood and stuff was smoking in the 70s. So
I think at that point the Hays Code kind of just fell out of style by the 70s. I don't think they gave a crap.
Yeah. But should also mention too, because this whole scene really of like, is pushing the boundaries. In fact, you actually see, much like Nelson Muntz, Batman, who made me bleed my own blood.
He had that little bit of blood.
The explosion happens, and it's like you can see he's concussed, and then he looks, considering the guy's been out friggin' beating the crap out of criminals for like 10 years or whatever now, looking down, seeing blood on his hand, been like, whoa! It's like, that's the first time this has ever happened. Where I've actually, we've got enough leniency for me to actually bleed. Usually, my hands are covered in someone else's blood when I'm kicking the crap out of them. But no, because the whole scene is kind of it's riffing on the big sequence in Frank Miller's Year One, where Gordon and everyone is clamping down on Batman. And they go and they blow up basically an entire like warehouse he's hiding in. They really riff on Batman Begins too, so when we're covering that, we'll probably cover that scene in much more detail. But yeah, so it's the whole thing though seems to be like a little nod to that. When that was like I think it's the issue 3 of Batman Year One, and the cover, because it was such the comic itself isn't very cheesy, but I guess because they still had to sell them, so they had to kind of cheese it up and stuff. And so, yeah, for when Batman's trapped in the warehouse, the tagline was like, they've got him cornered, they've got him outnumbered, they've got him trapped, they're in trouble. And you're like, oh. Although this one, to be fair to them, like, and that, like, yeah, Batman gets out of it and stuff, okay, but like, and he kind of has a bit of an upper hand sometimes. But there's a genuine sense of peril in these 2 minutes, where it's just like, they really got this guy on his ass here. Like, there's there'd be no escape for the princess this time. But yeah, there's so a big massive explosion, and tying into the whole plot line of the police really cracking down on Batman is also touched upon in Year 2, which is the don't fear the Reaper storyline, which is what they're basing a lot of Mask of the Phantasm on. And there's a weird moment where Batman teams up with the gangsters in order to take down the Reaper. It's a terrible story. Like he ends up teaming up with Joe Chill, the guy who killed his parents, to take down the Reaper. He uses the gun that killed his parents. He's just going around with a gun and a shoulder holster, and you're like, "What is this, man? This isn't Batman." And he shoots Gordon's gun out of his hand, used with the gun that killed his parents and stuff. And you're like, "What are you doing?" But yeah, when Gordon vows against Batman, there's a big moment where he takes out his pipe and snaps it in two.
That sounded vaguely obscene.
But it's also like, will Batman give you the pipe? Or like, why are you snapping your pipe, man? It's like, I picked the wrong day to quit smoking, but here we go. But that's such a synonymous thing with Jim Gordon, big smoker in the comics. Always had his pipe. I think you see him in the cartoon. I could have swore you see him like stuffing a pipe at some point.
I thought he smokes in the cartoon, but I might be wrong.
They probably show him holding it and like, packing it, but not smoking it, I reckon.
Is what they could get away with. They could probably have him like packing the pipe and you never see him smoke it, but it'll be implied that like, oh yeah, he's like he's the, when we were children, the guy's probably about 40 or something, but he's our version of an old man.
Yeah, I'm nearly 40.
He's old, so he smokes pipes and stuff. That's what they do.
Damn, is that what 40 is supposed to look like?
But I wonder, if Jeffrey Wright will he finally break the barrier and be like, all right, I'm bringing in the pipe.
Yeah, we all want Jeffrey's pipe.
Yeah, it'll be the big moment where they finally give our Battinson. He's gonna get the white eyes, and then in the same moment you'll just see Jeffrey Wright taking out a pipe and like, all right, man, let's go. It's finally happened, and a blimp appears in the background, like, oh, they're doing everything.
The only thing
Harvey Bullock pops in with a toothpick hanging out of his mouth, and everyone's like, "Oh, the gang's all here."
The only other thing I'll say before we do wrap up this long episode is when Batman gets
always go along with me.
Be prepared for it, don't worry. When Batman gets blown up and flies across the the half-built room. He sort of takes a blow and he comes to and he can't quite see and he's bleeding. So I thought. I think he's got a concussion. So I researched that and I had a look at the signs that Headway, the Brain Injury Association, list for concussions. And he basically hits most of these. If you've been
recently near an explosion due to a SWAT team, you may have a concussion.
It's all in there. No, it says dizziness, confusion, inability to process, vision distortion. He's hitting all of these. The only thing he hasn't got is nausea that we know of. He could be vomiting. We don't know. But he's hitting it. So he's got to be careful. Because only 10% of concussions involve a loss of consciousness. And he didn't really go unconscious properly, did he? So it's like, I still think he's concussed. Be careful, Bruce.
He's probably pretty concussed. I had a friend get hit by a car and hit and run, was concussed. But he was so out of it, he went to work and told his boss he was just going to go take a nap.
Oh, no, don't.
He was okay, in the end, but he had to go to the hospital not realizing how effed up he was. He had a broken arm, one of his legs was messed up. And they were finally you should probably go to the hospital. But because he was concussed, this is the thing why, you can't always, tell. You have to sometimes... I don't want to say force people, but you have to really strong arm some people to go to the hospital because it's
you do, absolutely.
You don't know that you're concussed. That's kind of part of it. It's like you're, no, I'm fine, aren't I?
I mean, I broke my arm and insisted I was fine. It was hanging off. I wasn't fine.
All right.
But I'm noted out for minute 46, so I'm happy to wrap it on up.
We will then. We'll head off into the dark night just as more police arrive on the scene. We'll do plugs and everything next episode, so do join us again next time for minute 47. And maybe Stephanie's back, or maybe she's concussed. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So see you then, Batmites.
Next time... Charge at the White Brigade. Ours is not to reason why, ours is but to swat this fly. With the ferocious 5-0 causing him endless woe, a deceptive detective distracts the Fuzz Force via use of a Trojan hobby horse. That's not really what a Trojan horse is, but, work with me here. The now maskless Bat Dude still has cops to elude, but can the crumbling crime fighter scarper while dazed and contused? With a bat on the run, bat on the run. Come Wednesday, folks, same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute. I must have dop, stiffet habitanem.